I swear it wasn't supposed to happen. I wasn't even supposed to be on that floor of the hospital. But that's the thing about fate. It doesn't ask for permission. It just drags you in by the throat. I remember the smell first. Sterile, sharp, mixed with that faint metallic tang of blood and disinfectant. My shoes squeaked against the tile, echoing louder than they should have, like the building itself was warning me not to go any further. But I was stubborn, and I was tired. My mother was supposed to be in room 312. At least, that's what the nurse scribbled down for me in her messy handwriting. So I pushed the door open without knocking. And then I froze, because lying in that bed wasn't my mother. It was a man I'd never seen before. Bandages wrapped his chest, wires hooked into his veins, monitors beeping steady like a broken lullaby. But his eyes, they weren't closed. They were wide open, sharp, and locked on me like a predator cornering prey. "Who the hell are you?" His voice was gravel, low and dangerous, the kind that could slice through the thickest silence. I stuttered. "I am sorry, I think I've got the wrong." "Shut the door." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. There was something in the way he said it that made my hand obey before my brain caught up. The click of the door shutting behind me sounded like a gunshot in my chest. I should have left. I should have backed out with an apology, run down the hall, laughed it off later. But I didn't, because there was something magnetic about him, his presence heavy, dangerous, yet impossible to look away from. "I asked you a question," he said, eyes narrowing. I'm nobody. Just visiting family." His lips curved, not into a smile, but into something darker, sharper. "Nobody doesn't walk into my room." That's when it hit me. The room was guarded, 2 men in black suits, stationed outside like statues when I passed. I thought they were doctors or security. Now it made sense. This wasn't just a patient. This was someone powerful. Someone feared. "I'm sorry," I whispered, clutching the strap of my bag like it was a lifeline. My palms were sweating, my heart a drum line in my chest. It was a mistake. "I'll leave." "You can't." 2 words. Simple, brutal, final. I swallowed hard. "What do you mean I can't?" His eyes flicked over me slow, like he was memorizing every detail. My hair, my trembling hands, the way I bit my lip to keep it from quivering. He was dissecting me without a scalpel. "Because," he said, his voice dropping softer, more lethal, "you've seen me, and people who see me don't walk away that easy." My blood went cold. "Look, I didn't see anything," I rushed out. "I don't even know who you are. I swear I'll forget this whole—" "Don't lie to me." His tone cut me off like a blade. He pushed himself up slightly, wincing at the pain in his ribs, but still managing to look terrifying, even half-broken. "You know exactly who I am." I didn't. Not really. But the truth settled in my stomach anyway. Mafia. That word that people whisper in bars and pray doesn't apply to them. The kind of man mothers warn their daughters about. The kind of man who ends lives with a nod. And here I was, locked in his room. Silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. Then, to my horror, he chuckled. Low, rough, almost amused. "You're shaking." "I'm not." "You are." His eyes gleamed. "But you haven't screamed. Haven't begged. Haven't tried the door." "That's interesting." I didn't know what to say. My throat burned with words I couldn't form. Finally he leaned back, the sheets rustling. "What's your name?" My instincts screamed not to tell him. But his gaze pinned me in place, demanding an answer. "Emily." "Emily," he repeated, rolling it around in his mouth like he was testing it. "Pretty. Dangerous, though." "Dangerous?" I whispered. "Names are power." He smirked faintly. "Now I own a piece of you." I wanted to laugh, or cry, or just bolt out of that suffocating room. Instead, I stood frozen, trapped in the gravity of a man I should have never met. He tilted his head, eyes softening for just a second. "You don't belong here, Emily. Not in this world, but maybe. That's why you can't leave." My pulse skipped. "What do you mean?" He didn't answer. He just closed his eyes like he was tired of talking, but I knew. I knew he wasn't going to let me walk out that door like nothing happened. And the sickest part of all? A part of me didn't want to. Because for one stolen heartbeat, standing in that room, I felt more alive than I had in years. More alive. And more doomed. I never believed in fate. Not until that night. Not until him. Before I walked into that hospital room, my life was painfully ordinary. Ordinary in the kind of way that slowly suffocates you. Like breathing the same recycled air every day until you forget what fresh oxygen tastes like. I grew up in a small house outside Chicago, daughter of a waitress and a mechanic who never quite paid the bills on time. My mother was the kind of woman who believed love was sacrifice, that you stayed even when staying meant breaking yourself piece by piece. My father, he was more absence than presence. Work, beers, silence. By the time I was old enough to understand, I knew love meant disappointment. I knew it meant giving more than you'd ever get back. That's what shaped me. That's why, when guys came around in high school saying I was pretty or begging for a dance, I laughed them off. Not because I didn't want it, but because I did. And wanting scared me more than being alone. I learned to swallow silence. To smile when people asked if I had someone and shrug like it didn't matter, but deep down it did. It mattered in a way I couldn't admit. And then came James, the first man who told me he loved me, the first man I let in. He had kind eyes, gentle hands, and a promise I was stupid enough to believe, that he'd never leave. He left anyway. Not with another woman, not with betrayal, but with cowardice. When my mother got sick and I had to pick up 2 jobs just to pay for her medicine, James started calling less. Started visiting less. One night, I picked up the phone and told him I needed him, and all I heard was silence on the other end. That was the last time we spoke. So yeah, I built walls. Tall ones. Ones no man was supposed to climb. But the night I stumbled into that hospital room, the walls didn't feel like protection anymore. They felt like chains. Because when his eyes locked on mine, sharp and unrelenting, something broke. Something in me whispered, this is what you've been waiting for, not kindness, not safety, but danger. Someone who doesn't flinch, someone who sees you. And that scared the hell out of me. I tried telling myself he was just another man with too much power and too much blood on his hands. That men like him only destroyed everything they touched. But lying to yourself only works for so long. The truth? He wasn't just a Mafia boss in that hospital bed. He was temptation wrapped in bandages. He was the possibility that maybe, just maybe, love didn't have to be soft to be real. Maybe love could be sharp, risky, alive. And I hated myself for wanting that. The night after I met him, I couldn't sleep. His voice replayed in my head, gravel and smoke. You've seen me. And people who see me don't walk away that easy. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, hating the way my stomach twisted, hating the heat that rose in my chest every time I imagined his smirk. I told myself it was fear. But fear doesn't make your lips ache like they've been kissed when they haven't. Fear doesn't make you wonder what a man like him would sound like saying your name in the dark. The next day, I found myself back at the hospital. I told myself it was for my mother. But when my feet carried me toward room 314 instead of 312, I knew I was lying. The 2 men outside the door didn't stop me. They looked at me, cold and expressionless, then stepped aside. As if they already knew. As if he told them to let me in. When I opened the door, his eyes found me instantly. That same heavy stare, like he'd been waiting. You came back, he said, voice low, almost amused. I shouldn't be here, I whispered. You shouldn't, he agreed. A pause. Then, but you are. I wanted to leave. God, I wanted to run. But my feet stayed planted on that cold tile floor. Because for the first time in years I felt something. Something raw. Something dangerous. Something real. And as much as I wanted to deny it, I couldn't. Meeting him felt different. Different enough to terrify me. Different enough to make me wonder if maybe, just maybe, my whole life had been leading me to that wrong hospital room. The next time I walked into his hospital room, I told myself I was just checking if he was still alive. That's the lie I fed myself to make it easier, but deep down I knew. I wanted to see him. He was sitting up this time, shirtless, bandages wrapped tight across his ribs. The light overhead made his skin look bronze, scarred, carved with stories I never dared to ask about. He looked less like a patient and more like a man chained temporarily to a bed, furious that he couldn't stand. And when his eyes found me, it was like they'd been searching. "You again," he said, that gravel voice curling in the air between us. "Don't sound so surprised," I muttered, hugging my arms around myself. He smirked. "I'm not. I told them you'd come back. You what?" He leaned back against the pillow, smug. "You think I didn't see it? The way you looked at me? Like you wanted to run and stay at the same time. That kind of conflict doesn't just disappear overnight." My cheeks burned hot. "You're imagining things." "No." His gaze sharpened, cutting through me. "I don't imagine. I know." The silence stretched, thick with something I didn't want to name. Finally, I exhaled. "You don't even know me." "Then tell me," he said, tilting his head like it was a challenge. "Tell me something that makes you real." I swallowed hard. "What do you want to know?" He didn't hesitate. "What's the worst thing anyone's ever done to you?" The question hit like a sucker punch. I should have laughed it off, should have walked out. Instead, my throat tightened. "My father," I whispered. "He used to leave for days, weeks sometimes. When he came back, it was like we didn't matter. My mom cried, I pretended not to care, but it breaks you, you know? Being invisible." He studied me, no mockery in his eyes, no smirk, just silence. Heavy listening silence. Then he said softly, "You're not invisible now." It was stupid. It was dangerous. But those words, God, they cracked me wide open. I moved closer to the bed before I even realized what I was doing. "What about you?" I asked, my voice trembling. "What's the worst thing anyone's ever done to you?" For the first time, his smirk faltered. His eyes flickered with something raw, something almost human. "They killed my brother," he said. No hesitation, no filter, just truth. "And I killed every man responsible. That's the difference between me and your father, Emily. I don't walk away. I don't leave things broken." His voice was steady, but I heard it pain threaded through steel, and I should have been afraid. But all I felt was heat. "You scare me," I admitted, my heart pounding so loud I thought the machines would pick it up. His lips curved. "Good, fear keeps you alive." I shook my head. "That's not the only reason." His gaze sharpened. "What else?" "You scare me because I don't want to leave this room." The second I said it, the air shifted. His hand moved, slow, deliberate, resting on the edge of the bed, not touching me, just waiting. And my body betrayed me. Step by step, I closed the distance until my hand hovered above his, trembling like a confession. "Emily," he whispered, my name sounding like a sin in his mouth. I set my hand down. Skin to skin. A spark shot through me, searing, terrifying, intoxicating. He didn't pull away. Neither did I. The silence between us cracked like lightning. And then, without thinking, without planning, I leaned in. Our lips met. It wasn't soft. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, fierce, like we'd both been holding our breath for years and finally exhaled into each other. His hands slid to the back of my neck, pulling me closer despite the pain in his ribs, and I melted against him like I'd been waiting my whole damn life for this. When we finally pulled apart, gasping, he rested his forehead against mine. "You don't walk away now," he murmured. "Not after that." And the terrifying part? He was right. After that kiss, I stopped lying to myself. I went back every night. Sometimes under the excuse of bringing my mother soup, sometimes with no excuse at all. I slipped into his room when the halls were quiet, when the nurses were tired, when the only sounds were the beeping of machines and the hum of the fluorescent lights. He'd always be waiting. "Thought you weren't coming," he'd say, voice low like he'd been holding his breath until the door opened. "You knew I would," I'd whisper back, and I always did. Because being near him felt like stepping out of a gray lifeless world into color, even if the color was painted in blood. We talked. God, we talked about everything. About the way the city never sleeps, about childhood scars, about the first time he ever fired a gun. I told him about my mother's laugh before the sickness drained it from her, about the way loneliness can be louder than a crowd. Sometimes he'd close his eyes while I spoke, as if the sound of my voice was a drug. Sometimes I'd catch myself memorizing the curve of his jaw, the rough stubble, the way his hands looked too dangerous to ever be tender except when they were holding mine. One night, when the rain hammered against the hospital windows, he whispered something I'll never forget. "Emily, if I weren't me, would you still come back?" I froze. "If you weren't you?" "If I wasn't." His voice broke slightly, just enough for me to hear the weight underneath. "If I wasn't blood and power and enemies waiting to finish the job. If I was just a man." I touched his hand. "You are just a man." To me, his throat worked like he was swallowing something sharp. Then he leaned in, pressing his lips to my knuckles, a rare tenderness breaking through his armor. "You're either the bravest woman I've ever met," he murmured, "or the most foolish." "Maybe both," I whispered. We didn't need more words after that, just silence. A silence thick with everything unspoken want, fear, the knowledge that this thing between us was bigger than either of us knew how to handle. But the silence didn't last. Because outside that room, his world kept spinning. And it wasn't just a world of whispers and warmth, it was a world of violence. I felt it in the way the guards stiffened when I passed. The way hushed voices carried through the hall late at night. Something was coming. Something I wasn't meant to hear, but I did. One night, when I left his room to grab water, I passed two of his men speaking in low voices by the vending machine. "She doesn't belong here," one hissed. "The boss is distracted." "And distracted men die." "She's nothing," the other muttered. "A nurse, a visitor, I don't care. But if word gets out that he's got a weakness, then she won't last the week." I froze, my blood running cold. They didn't see me, didn't hear the sharp intake of my breath before I fled back into his room, shutting the door too quietly to draw attention. He looked up instantly. "Emily, what is it?" I shook my head, forcing a smile I didn't feel. "Nothing, just tired." He didn't believe me. His eyes lingered on my face, sharp, reading me like a book, but he didn't press. Not yet. That night, when he pulled me close, when his lips found mine in the dark, I kissed him like it could be the last time. Because maybe it would. And in the silence afterward, with his heartbeat steady against my cheek, I finally let myself whisper the truth I've been swallowing for weeks. "I think I'm falling for you." He stiffened, just for a second. Then he exhaled, his hand sliding up my back. "Then you're already in danger," he murmured. I closed my eyes. I don't care, but I should've. Because the very next morning, the door to his room slammed open and the look on his face told me everything. We weren't safe anymore. The morning the door slammed open, everything changed. He pushed me behind him instantly, even though he was still bandaged, still bleeding beneath those wraps. 3 men stormed into the room, 1 in a suit, 2 with guns. His guards outside had been useless or dead. I didn't have time to wonder which. "Boss," the man in the suit sneered. "You've been hiding." "Recovering," he growled back, his hand instinctively reaching for me. Their eyes landed on me, and I felt my blood turn to ice. "So this is why you've been slow to move," the suit said, smirking. "Pretty little distraction." "She's not worth it." He stepped forward. "Touch her, and you'll die before you hit the ground." His voice didn't waver. Even broken, even cornered, he sounded untouchable. And that's what terrified me most, because I knew he wasn't, not now. The man left eventually, but not before leaving a warning. Your enemies know, boss. They know what she means to you. And when they come, she'll be the first to bleed. The second the door shut, I spun on him, shaking. What the hell was that? Lemily. No, don't you dare give me that calm voice. Don't you dare act like I didn't just hear them threaten to kill me because of you. He clenched his jaw. You're still here, aren't you? Because I'm stupid, I snapped, tears burning behind my eyes. Because I thought maybe this thing between us meant something real. But it's not love, is it? It's a target painted on my back. Silence. His fists clenched, the veins in his arms standing out. Then he said it, low and brutal. Love doesn't keep you safe, Emily. It keeps you alive. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Alive? I feel like I'm already dead. Every time I hear footsteps in the hall, every time the phone rings, I wonder if it's the end. Do you even care what that's doing to me? His voice broke then, just slightly. More than you'll ever know. And that should have been enough. But it wasn't. For days after, we fought. Whispers in the dark, sharp words that cut deeper than knives. He told me to stay away for my own safety. I told him I wasn't leaving. He accused me of not understanding his world. I accused him of dragging me into it without asking. It was chaos. Passion and fury tangled so tight I couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. And then came the choice. His men came for me at night. Not to kill me but to hide me. He ordered it, one said. You're to leave the city until it's over. I looked at him, standing by the window, his silhouette carved in shadows. His eyes didn't meet mine. So that's it, I whispered. You send me away like I'm nothing? His jaw tightened. If you stay, they'll take you. If they take you, I'll burn the world to get you back. And I don't know if I'll succeed. Do you want that on your hands? I wanted to scream, to claw at his chest until he bled more than he already had, but all I managed was a trembling whisper. Do you even want me here? That's when he finally looked at me. His eyes were fire, fury, heartbreak all tangled together. More than I want to breathe, and yet he didn't stop them when they dragged me away. They sent me to a safe house on the edge of the city. Concrete walls, boarded windows, guards at every exit. I wasn't a guest, I was a prisoner with better furniture. Every night, I pressed my ear to the silence, waiting for news. Every day I begged for updates. Nothing. And the worst part? The last words he said to me looped in my mind like a curse. More than I want to breathe. But if that was true, why was I here, caged, while he fought battles I couldn't see? On the fourth night, it happened. Gunfire split the silence, sharp and merciless. Shouts outside, boots pounding against the floorboards. My guard burst through the door, blood streaking his arm. They found us, he barked. The world turned to chaos. I grabbed the only thing I could, a kitchen knife, ridiculous in my shaking hands. They pulled me toward the back exit, but the door exploded inward before we reached it. Men in masks, guns raised. I thought it was the end, until I heard his voice. Let her go. He stepped into the doorway like a storm. Bruised, furious, eyes burning with that fire that had both terrified and saved me from the start. His gun was steady, aimed straight at the man holding me. The masked man laughed, pressing cold steel to my temple. She's the reason you're weak. We end her, we end you. I felt the barrel dig into my skin, and for a second I couldn't breathe. My heart was a hammer trying to break free from my chest. And then his voice cut through it all, steady, brutal, final. If you kill her, I'll paint this room with every drop of blood in your body. You know I will. For a moment no one moved. The whole world balanced on the edge of that second. Then chaos exploded, shots fired, bodies crashed. I hit the ground, ears ringing, smoke filling the air. Someone dragged me, someone else screamed, and all I could do was crawl through the haze. Emily! His voice, frantic now. Stay down! But I couldn't, not when I saw him. He was bleeding again. A red bloom spreading across his shirt. He fired back 1, 2, 3 shots, dropping men like shadows falling, but he was slowing, staggering. I ran to him, knife useless in my hand, grabbing his arm. You're hit. Doesn't matter, he hissed. His eyes were locked on me, not the blood, not the fight. Just me, you matter. And then, with one final shot, silence fell. The men were gone, the floor littered with bodies, but so was he. His knees buckled, his weight crashing into me. I barely caught him, his blood soaking through my clothes. Don't close your eyes, I begged, shaking him, my tears blinding me. You hear me? You can't leave me like this. His lips moved, a whisper I had to press my ear against to hear. Emily, if I don't make it. His breath rattled. Don't regret us. And then his eyes fluttered shut. I don't remember how I got him out. The night blurred into sirens, flashing lights, hands pulling him away from me. I remember screaming his name, choking on his blood, begging everyone to save him. They said he was gone twice on the table, twice, but he clawed his way back. And when I saw him again, pale under the hospital lights, tubes in his arms, chest rising slow but steady, I swear my knees gave out. The world could have ended right there, and I wouldn't have cared, because he was still breathing. I sat by his bed for 3 days straight. My hands clutching his, my head pressed against the sheets. Whispering things I never had the courage to say when his eyes were open. I don't care if you're broken. I don't care if the world wants us to fail, you're it for me. You're the only thing that makes me feel alive. The 4th day he woke. His voice was ragged, barely there, but he still found a way to smirk. You sound like you're in love with me. I laughed through the tears, hitting his shoulder gently. Don't you ever do that to me again. His hand weak, trembling, still found mine. He looked at me like I was the only thing anchoring him to this earth. I'm not gonna lie, Emily, he whispered. I thought I lost you in that house, and his voice cracked, he swallowed hard. It killed me. I realized I'd burn this whole city to the ground before I let anyone touch you again. Silence, heavy, charged. Then I leaned in, my forehead against his, my voice shaking. Then don't let me go. Not now, not ever. And for the first time he didn't hesitate. I won't. The months after weren't easy. He had enemies. I had scars on my body, on my heart. Nights I'd wake up screaming, nights he'd wake up gasping. But every morning he was there. And every morning I chose him again. People talk about love like it's soft, like it's flowers and sunshine. Ours wasn't. Ours was jagged edges and gunfire, whispered promises in the dark, bleeding hands held tight just so we wouldn't fall apart. But it was real. And it survived. Sometimes, when it's quiet, he'll brush his thumb across my wrist, right where my pulse beats, and he'll murmur, more than I want to breathe. And every time I answer, then breathe with me, because we're still here. Against every odd, every wound, every ghost, we're still here. And that's the truth I'm confessing to you now. I thought I lost him forever. But sometimes love doesn't let go. It fights back. And it wins.